Hello, everybody, and welcome. Today, we are going to be talking about ethics in photo manipulation. Now, just as a reminder for some of you that might have forgot, ethics are the moral principles that guide any activity. So there's ethics in our lives everywhere we go, wherever we are, that basically guide our moral compass to say whether it is right or wrong in a particular field or instance. Now, quick question for you, and some of this may seem familiar to you. Think to yourself, does this image here on the right, do you think that the image of the dress is white, gold, blue, or black? Now, this might seem like a ridiculous question, but it caused quite the stir in about 2019, as this image was circulating the internet, and caused quite the debate on whether or not this image was white or gold, blue or black in terms of the colors. The issue is so many people were manipulating the image to look different colors that no one knew what the original color of the dress was. Now, the essential question here is, what are the creative and ethical aspects of digital photo manipulation? Okay. Now, the key terms here are going to be photo manipulation and photo retouching. Now, some questions to keep in mind. Where do we draw the line between creativity and deception? And how do the purpose and context of photo editing affect how we feel about it? And what role does the internet play in allowing us to share, inspire, and critique images that have been edited? Now, these two images here have been edited and manipulated for the sake of creativity and art. Okay, so if we look at both of these images, both of them look like they have a sense of reality to them, but at the same time, they're very, very, very surreal. Like for the instance of the image with the rock on the left, a rock that large falling from the sky into a small pond like this is somewhat fantastical, similarly to the image on the right, where we have this house carved out of this giant tree. Okay, so for these images, it's not so much about passing them off as reality as much as it is giving a creative perspective or fantastical image to wander in. Same thing with this image here. We have this stone house kind of photoshopped into this tree trunk here. It's a beautiful image and it's fun to think about, but at the same time, it's not trying to pass itself off as reality. Okay, there's not like a news headline here saying, look at this house found in Belgium, right? It's just an image to spark creativity and inspiration. And then similarly with this image here, we have this boat that's floating along this water. And then we have this house back here that is also seemingly caught in this flood. Now, something to really think about is an image retouched or has there been some type of manipulation? Okay, and the key thing here is knowing the difference. Photo retouching is when you change the image to remove or repair damaged or unwanted blemishes or objects. So if we look at this image here, notice that we have this old-timey photo here of maybe somebody's grandmother when they were young. And then instead of manipulating the image, they just retouched it to make it look a little more real and of the time. Okay, so there's not a whole lot of manipulation that's happening. It's just retouching the image to bring it back to life. Okay. Photo manipulation, however, is to change a photo with the intent of altering its message or meaning. Okay, so if we look at this image here, this top image is of this island with these houses, and then it's been photoshopped or manipulated at the bottom to make it look like it's on the back of this giant fish. Okay, now granted, could this fool anybody? I don't know. However, it is manipulated in a way that goes beyond a sense of reality and changes the way that we think about the world for the sake of better or worse. Now, I want you to think real quick, is this image photoshopped or photo manipulated, or is this retouched? Some questions to ask, is it changing the meaning of the image? Or is it taking away a sense of reality? Or is it changing the way that we think about the image? And the way that I look at this image is, yes, it is in fact just retouched so we can get a full sense of what's happening in the original picture. Okay, so it's just bringing the photo back to life. It's not changing anything major in the photo. It's just making it so we aren't distracted by all the blemishes in the photo. Now, something to know is that the earliest photo manipulation meant that people actually had to move items around to create different photographic compositions. Okay, this is Matthew Brady's Civil War photograph that was created by supposedly moving this dead body into the sniper's nest for the photo. One, that's disgusting, and two, it's changing the way in which we would perceive war. Now, photo history goes back only so far to, 1839, okay? The Civil War, when it happened, was the first war that photography was used to capture what had happened on a battlefield, okay? What's crucial in thinking about this image here is that we want to trust the images we see. However, if the person taking the image is setting a scene to make it look more fantastical than reality, that is when we start playing around with manipulating ideas for propaganda. And then if we look at this image here, Abraham Lincoln didn't actually have a good picture, so he superimposed himself on another person's body just to make him look a little more regal. And then we have this image here. So this is old-timey ghost photography. So what they would do is they would take a picture of a couple people and then they would make them seemingly levitate to look like they are floating with maybe deceased loved ones. So then they would sell their photographs to people thinking that these are in fact images of ghosts. Now, even though this is an early form of Photoshop, right, except in a dark room, this is done in a way that is trying to sell an idea that is in fact false. Now, here today, gone tomorrow. Here is some, here's an early example of photo manipulation from Soviet Russia, okay, which is really great at photo manipulation. A human being is entirely erased from history, or attempted to be erased by the person removing him from all official news. Okay, so if we look at this image here, this person walking next to him is actually completely erased from the image just to give more emphasis to Putin here. Okay. Now, when we look at this image here, we can see that they've photoshopped this man out here, and they've also cleaned up some of the background, made it a little bit darker, just so we can see this person here. Okay, so when we think about the way in which we start erasing people from photos, okay, for newspapers, it's important to think about what is reality and is it worth changing an image, or is it ethical to change an image to maybe sell a persona of a person. This is also can be seen in like weight loss photos today. Someone trying to sell a weight loss supplement that maybe doesn't actually work, and maybe photoshopping someone to look skinnier to say that it works better. Now, this image is selling the idea that this politician has a really close relationship with its people, and they've emphasized and changed the image here so he stands out way more than he would have in this image up on the top. Now, then we have this image here, which has been photoshopped. So this man doesn't look like he needs the help of somebody to hold his horse steady. So if we look at the original image, right, we can see that he's totally, he looks really awesome. He looks like he's doing his thing. He's on his own. But then when you look at the original image, you see that there's actually people holding his horse steady, showing that he's not as good of a horseman as he is pretending to be. Now, even though the most credible media services, including National Geographic, have been guilty of manipulating images to a degree that is subject to be possibly unethical. Okay, so by adjusting the position of the pyramids to make a better fit of the vertical format of the magazine, National Geographic spurred one of the greatest debates about the issue of digital manipulation. So what happens when you actually start moving the world around you and showing people a scene that actually never exists, right? Especially for a magazine that touts itself as being, a magazine that shows you images of the world, right? And what happens when you find out that those images are actually fake. Same thing goes when like thinking about O.J. Simpson, right? The O.J. Simpson trial was a huge case. When you look at these two covers of these two different magazines of the time, people noticed that Time magazine had darkened his skin to make him look like a darker, more villainous person versus this image of O.J. on the right, which is just the actual image of his mugshot. So thinking about what happens when you try and darken and villainize somebody to make them look maybe more sinister than they actually are, right? And also think about all the politics involved in the O.J. Simpson trial as it was anyway.